if you take everything out, ACS is an ICT company. We make software, but we do that on a very specific item on managing installations in buildings. If you take a building, a lot of energy goes into a building. A lot of it is wasted. We don't use it in a proper way. And our core is that we understand buildings and its installations, and we understand ICT. And then you should also think about things like artificial intelligence, etc. So we put them together and we make products, softwares to better steer buildings. That's what we do. From about 25 people now, located here in Groningen. And in Leens, which is actually about 30 minutes drive from here to the north, close to the shore, a small town. But our developers are sitting there, so they have a more relaxed environment, so to speak. Buildings use 40% of all energy we use worldwide. Buildings use more energy than industry or transport or whatever. And half of that energy is wasted. So if you could manage that, if you could take that out, that's the big goal, you could reduce energy use worldwide for 20%. So it's a very small part technology-wise, but the impact can be enormous. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it tick, and that's why people like to work here, because they see they work on something that really has an impact. We do projects in several countries, but if you look at a German project, it's completely different organized than a Dutch project. And if you look at the Belgian project, again, it's like a complete different world. You need to be open for that. You need to be able to see that sometimes things work differently in another country. And that's also why it is for us always interesting to have people with a different perspective, because sometimes that works very well. Being international, I regard that as an asset. Actually, I think we have not enough international people yet, because although we have a lot of international partners, most people in the company are still Dutch. And that's because of, the way we found it. You started with doing local operations and you start with local people. But I think looking ahead in the coming years, expect to have a lot of different backgrounds in the company, in the ICT and development part, in people who understand the physical hardware and systems, and people who are able to translate that towards customers. And that's very generic, and somebody would say that's sales. Well, of course, we have to do sales as well, but sales already is something like, a kind of consultative sales. So you're hardly ever that you say, well, you can buy this is the price, goodbye. That's not the company we are. You do together a project, you set it up, you have to guide your customers, and that's a complete different way of doing business. I think the first thing, which is the most important maybe, is being just who you are, down to earth and open. What we see, the most important thing is that people feel welcome, feel accepted, feel part of the team. And just that basic thing, from that, you get into the skills and what you can contribute. We have a very simple thing. We have a kind of a rule. We have 2 locations and we do the same at both locations. We always lunch together. And why is that so important? It's a Dutch lunch, so that's for some foreigners not that easy, but we always lunch together because the personal interaction and being you're not international, you are a person. That is the key, and from there you bring things, and that brings an international background, etc. And that goes from, I think that is the key importance. And when that is available in a company, people, blend in very easily. And from there, it's 1 and 1 can be 3. But you first need to have that open environment. And I think that is, for any company who wants to work with international people, that's key. The openness, so to speak, actually comes from the business side. We took over business which had projects all over the world. So we have a lot of international partners from all corners of the world, and sometimes that's not easy. It brings a lot, and it brings a very difficult discussion sometimes to the table. So if and you work in that kind of environment, it's only great to have people bring something else to your company as well. Because in the end, if you have all Dutch, being an ICT company, it's very easy to become young Dutch male. All of them. Having women on board, having other backgrounds on board, is something you really have to work for. And then, because you're international, it's easy to think, well, if you come across somebody who have a complete different background, the answer most probably is going to be yes from our side, because it adds up to what we already do. So it's something, it comes from us from the business, and more it comes into our staff as well. And I think that's great. We have a lot of experience in working with partners international, so being in an international environment is easy. Having international people is still something we are developing, but and when that means that there are administrative things to arrange, then we do that. What we can offer, it depends really on the person, but what we can offer is a space in which you can, in an open and constructive environment, and people will really want to work with you and really want to help you, learn about our business, so learn about the content itself, but also learn about doing business in an environment where we're in, national and international. So that I think something we can offer, and it's a warm bath, but you should not come for the warm bath. You should come that you want to learn something, and if you really want to learn something and you can contribute something, then this is a place to be, because if you work with us for a certain time, you can take out something. You can take out an understanding of this business, a business which is booming all over the world. So if people say, well, I would like to work here for a couple of years maybe, or whatever, and I would take that knowledge back to my home country, it's fine with us. We're open to that. And sometimes people say, well, I'm an international, you know, I don't know where I'm going to work or what I'm going to do. Yeah, that's fine as well. You know, we have the opposite in this moment. We have some Dutch people working abroad now, and they take along, let's say, the experience they had here, and we speak to them every now and then because we're still in contact, and that works very well. It's kind of a network, and whatever your goal is, be open about it, talk about it. We have many ways we can accommodate that, and it's something that if it works well, it works both ways. So it's good for us, but it should be good for the people coming on board as well. It might seem that we are on a very specific topic. In fact, it is. It might seem that there's a high barrier, and actually it's not. So don't be afraid. If somebody's really interested, just give a call. We have a cup of coffee, we can see what we can do, we can talk about it. And sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't fit, we'll tell. But there are these barriers, they seem high, but they are not so high. Because there's so many aspects in the business which is just about humans and about how we interact and how we interact with technology. That's not different from many other companies, what they do. So these barriers are not that high. And if you are interested in the topic, well, of course, then that's a big plus.